and welcome to Midlands Football Fans TV. Here with us today, we have the fans of Birmingham FC. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks very much.
So guys, with 10 games gone already in the season, how do you think the club are performing so far?
It's been a mixed bag of results, if I'm honest. We've obviously been through a transition in summer. We've had, some would say an excellent season last season, given the circumstances, with the 9-point deduction, and we were quite stable last season to sack the manager. We've had to go again this summer, and ultimately, it's been a risk. At times, it looks like it's paid off. We've played some really, really good stuff sometimes, given Friday night. We played Middlesbrough on Sky. We played really well. We won. And then other times we seem to lack any sort of direction. So we've come into it. Apologies about that. We've come into it and we've struggled. We've got no identity. We've lacked in confidence, and we've beaten quite comprehensively. So, a really mixed bag of results. But obviously, going in from our last game, we played some of the best stuff we've seen in many a years, and played really well. So there's air for optimism, I think, ultimately.
Do you think you can build from that performance against Middlesbrough midweek?
I do. I really do. I think that, going off what we saw, Birmingham City are never really a team that dominate for 90 minutes. We did. I think that we were really unlucky to concede at all. But we strung together some really good passes. I think we had 26 shots on target, or 26 shots in the game. It's really impressive for us, and I think that if we can build on that, then, going into the next part of the season, I'm remotely confident. But that's been the problem. We'll have one good performance, and then the next one, we seem to slide, and we don't seem to get any consistency going. So, but I'll wait and see. It was our best performance of the season so far, so, a good amount of confidence going into the next one.
And with that being said, what areas do you feel the team need to work on in order to improve?
I think most importantly, we need to improve on our strike partnership. At the moment, we've got Jimenez and Djukovic, our only two out-and-out strikers. They can't work together. They're too similar of a player. Although they were very good with each other against Middlesbrough, there's something lacking there. Ever since Shea Adams left, Duke hasn't really been himself. He scored so many goals for us last season, and he was fantastic. We haven't got the same out of him this season because the partnership isn't there. A lot of this season we've tried to play him alone as a lone striker. That hasn't worked for him. He needs a sort of shorter, stockier player that can run and do the legwork, whereas he's there to head things into the back of the net, really. Jimenez is very similar in style. He's tall, he's strong, he's a little bit quicker. So I think strikers is definitely where we need to look at, especially come January. We need to get someone in. The only other place really would be goalkeeper. I think it's a tricky place because Camp has been fantastic for us the majority of this season. However, in the last few games, he's almost dipped off a little bit. He's been suspect. There's some goals he should have saved, and it's been quite disappointing, really. But he's never been a goalkeeper that we've always had a lot of confidence in. He's always been a bit of a joker. So I think definitely a goalkeeper is where we need to strengthen as well.
So in terms of performances, like with Birmingham, which few players have stood out for you guys in performing well and trying to do the best for the team and improving results?
I would have said, in terms of a standout player this season, I would, you can't look much further than Dan Crowley. I think that we've signed him for, £750,000 from Holland. Still 20, he was 21 when we signed him, still very young, but, in terms of a technical player, he's outstanding. He's Premier League quality playing in the Championship. And I think that, we're now starting to see the best out of him on the right-hand side of midfield. Ivan Sunjic, again, we've signed from Dynamo Zagreb. I think he cost us, he's going to cost us upwards of £7 million. Again, it was a big buy, but he looks the part. There was plenty of Premier League teams looking at him. I think we were lucky to get him. We'll be lucky to keep a hold of him past the end of the season. A really combative midfielder, offers us a lot in, the holding position in front of the back four. He breaks up play. He's got a good eye for a pass, and I can't look much further than Jude Bellingham either. 16 years old, has broke into the team. Plenty of big teams after him, Bayern Munich, Liverpool, but ultimately a young local lad, and at the age of 16, what were we all doing at the age of 16? This kid's running the midfield for us and looks the real part. 2 goals already this season, and I think many more to come. I think that if the club can try and keep a hold of him as long as they can, and they could get upwards of £50 million for him come maybe a year, 2 years, because his price tag's only going to go up as his reputation grows. So there's plenty of positives. There's plenty of players that have stood out so far, and plenty of players that could probably pick up the performance. But ultimately, those are the 3 sort of that stand out for me off the top of my head. So, yeah.
And are you happy with the current formation system, or would you prefer a more attacking style of approach?
I think it's a bit of a tricky one. If you'd asked me before the Borough game, I would have said I'm not really hugely happy. The issue is we are so inconsistent. We started the season with a 5 at the back formation. It wasn't as attacking as we wanted it to be. It was too defensive. The full-backs weren't playing as really wing-backs, were they? It was very rigid. Then we tried to go forward at the back and have a bit more of an attacking way of playing. It just hasn't clicked until the Borough game. There was 5 attacking players on the pitch in a 4-4-2, which worked incredibly well, which is something that we didn't think was going to happen at all this season. A 4-4-2 with 1 defensive player in midfield, the solid defence that we've had all season, that were pretty much the same as what it was last season, except replacing Michael Morrison for Mark Roberts, who's now in our back 4. I think going forward, we almost need to continue with the style of play that we played against Borough. That same formation really suited every single player on the pitch incredibly well. It seemed to get the best out of our midfield, which in previous seasons is where we've been lacking massively. But I think going forward, the same style of play against Borough is what we need to be doing.
As a fan, in terms of performances, like we said, inconsistency, is it hard to remain trusting in the manager and his philosophies?
Yeah, I think that before the Middlesbrough game, again, we keep going back to that. There was a few calls for his head. There was a few calls for him to be gone. I think he's quite an unproven manager. Being the assistant manager last season, he's not really had great experience. He was at Oxford 2 years ago, and it did okay. But he got the sack there because they weren't quite in the promotion push. But he's an intelligent man. He knows his stuff. He's come through the Barcelona sort of system in terms of he's done his study there in La Masia. So in that aspect, you have a lot of trust in. But then what we've watched this season, you can only go off what we're getting so far. The inconsistencies, the lack of trust in his own system. So he started with the 5 through pre-season, and then immediately changed it after 1 game that, didn't fill the fans with confidence. We're trying, again, he's bought himself some time with Middlesbrough performance on Friday night. But ultimately, again, if things start to dip off 2 or 3 games, if we lose again, there's going to be calls for his head. I personally want to put trust in him. I do put a lot of trust in him. And I think that it could work. I've been saying since the start of the season that, he's a man that knows his stuff, and we really just need to give him that platform to build and to express himself. But it's a results business at the end of the day, and if we don't keep up with the promotion push, then they'll have him gone by Christmas. So I can see why fans are struggling to trust him, but ultimately I think we need to give it time. I think we need to give it up to Christmas, see where we are then. Then we can reassess and look to change it then.
I know we touched on it earlier a bit about strikers and you guys struggling at the moment. Is Che Adams a really big miss for you guys?
Yeah. In one word, yeah. He was such an influential player last season for us. It's very difficult to put into words how great he was. It's a shame that going to Southampton, he hasn't obviously replicated that as of yet. But he didn't just score the goals for us last season, he created chances for other players as well. He was very much the person and player you went to if you needed the game to be changed. Almost give Shea the ball and he'll score. In previous seasons to that, he hadn't been as lightning as he had been last season. So it was very impressive to see him play the way he did. And his strike partnership with Lukas Jukovic was incredible. But he also could play by himself if there was injuries or anything like that. So he is sorely missed. We need a player like him desperately to be able to get the best out of our two taller strikers. But he was such a great player and guy to have in the club, and he brought the best out of everyone on the pitch. We weren't completely a technically talented team last season, but he seemed to make us look like we were, and seemed to make us perform a lot better than we probably gave ourselves credit for at the start of the season. So yeah, he is very sorely missed, and we definitely need a player like him back, and we'd have him back on loan if he wanted to come.
So a few games ago, you played against Derby County, and unluckily you lost 3-2.
Yes, certainly, yeah.
Are there any positives that you can take away from that game?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we said after the game that performances are massive. You can take positives from performances. You can't always take positives from results, if that makes any sense. So you can go into a game and win 1-0, but play terribly. You can play, you know, off the pace. You can play not to the standard that you know. And I think that we've done that several times. And fans will still moan because you've won, but you've not really impressed. You've not entertained. You've not done what you should do. We've lost at Derby, but we've played well. For 70 minutes, we were the better team. We should have got something from that game. We didn't. We threw it away. It was our own downfall, and that was the disappointing factor that we got it back to 2-2, and we threw it away again, trying to win the game. But we took a lot of positives from it. None of the fans came out and said, he's got to go after that performance. He's got to be sacked, because they enjoyed what they watched. They saw that the team, went out with a good mentality. But the positives that we could take from that was, we can score goals away from home. We scored 2. We should have scored a third. We missed the penalty. We attacked a team that were in the playoffs last year, and a team that we should have beat ideally, but for our own downfall. So plenty of positives, but that's been the biggest problem this season, has been performances, and we got that rare good performance against Derby, but that was the positive that a lot of fans took from that one, and it kind of made you forget a little bit that we had lost because you were so impressed with the performance. So yeah, plenty of positives there were to take from that one. So 2 out of 3 games is not too bad from the last 3, so positives for sure to take.
Yeah. And how long have you both been Birmingham FC fans?
I've been going down since a little one. So my dad took me down when I was 2 weeks old. So I've been going down for 22 years. I've had a season ticket for 21. The only one I missed was my first year at university in London. I still travelled back every week, which I shouldn't have done, but I did. So I've been going down all my life. Rarely missed a home game, and I rarely miss an away game these days. So yeah, I've been going down a long time, and I managed to bring you along, didn't I, with me? So
I've been going, this is my 3rd season now, 3rd year as a season ticket holder as well. I originally don't come from Birmingham, as you can all probably tell. But yeah, I went down with you, didn't I, and fell in love within the first 10 minutes. The atmosphere, the place, it was just great. And I said, I want a season ticket here. And here we are now. So
it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? But it's a special club. It's one that gets a lot of bad publicity, but the fans that are there, the proper fans, it's a family club. It really is. It gets overshadowed, but I've been going down for 22 years, and it's my life. I wouldn't do anything differently on a Saturday, and I'm so passionate about it. You'll find that the core of the fans, they're the 20-odd thousand fans that are there every week. It's their life, it's their livelihood. So I've been going down 22 years, and I'm hopefully going down the next 22 more on a consistent basis. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, are there any rival supporters in the family, or is it very much a Birmingham family affair?
for me, my family are Bristol City fans. It's a bit of a mixed bag where I come from. But yeah, predominantly Bristol City fans, so very weak rivalry. It's only my dad that takes the mick out of us, is it really? And my grandpa when we see him, which isn't very often. But with you, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I've got kind of a split family. So my dad's side are Birmingham City. So my uncles, my cousins, all of that. My mum's side of my family are West Brom. So she was originally a West Brom fan, but then started going out with my dad for the last 30 years. She's been Blues. So my grandparents, West Brom, my aunties, uncles, and I do have the obscure Villa fan who is on my dad's side, who wasn't blood family. So I've got a couple of Villa mixed in there, a cousin and an uncle that are Villa. So yeah, it's a real mixed bag mine. Other than Wolves, they're the only team missing from my family. So, but predominantly Blues, I'd say.
So you've been attending St Andrews for 21 years now. What is your most memorable game as a fan that you've witnessed?
Ooh, at St Andrews, I've witnessed a lot of good games down the years. We've had some excitement. I would say that you can't look much further than the 2010-11 season when we did eventually win the cup. At St Andrews, we played Villa in the quarterfinals. I think it was pelting it down with snow. It was cold. It was December. I think we won that one 2-1. And then we played West Ham in the semi-finals the game after, and we won that one 4-3. But we were 3-1 down at half-time. So we come back to win that one. It was probably the most memorable night you can pick up. But other than that, you got the European nights. We played in Europe the season after. We played Maribor and Club Bruges and CD Nacional. So we played some great teams, and we won quite a few of the games at home. So some top nights at St Andrews. You get it under the floodlights. It's one of the best places to be. There's not many atmospheres around that can top it, if I'm honest. But obviously outside of St Andrews, you can't look much further than the cup final. We won at Wembley. And for me, it's the best day supporting Blues so far. We don't win many trophies. We never do. So for us, it was a once in a 50-year sort of thing. So I'm hopefully we'll be around to see the next one. So.
Well, for me, I can't really look hugely further than when we played Fulham at the end of the 17-18 season. I think we needed 1 point to stay up, and we won quite heavily. I think it was 3-1. And that was the best day. Ended up in 442 magazine, which was really funny because I had pink hair. And I was like, but it was great. The atmosphere was electric. Everyone was up for it. We almost didn't think, because Fulham were in the playoff places, that we weren't going to be able to bring the game to them. But we were in charge the whole game. It was fantastic. Everyone played out their skin, and just thinking back to it, it was fantastic. And I can't say anything better than that game for me. But yeah, that was the one that I'd have to pick.
In terms of players for the club, who is your all-time favourite player?
It's a tricky one. I've had a lot down the years. A lot of cult heroes. Obviously, I can't talk about some of the ultimate legends because I didn't watch them. So Trevor Francis and all of that, and Bob Latchford, they were way before my time. But I've seen, Christophe Dugarry, World Cup winner. With France, he came and he was just the most outrageous player we've ever seen. Kept us up in our first season in the Prem. Mikel Forssell, I think he scored 20 goals in the Premier League in one of our best eras. For me, he's probably one of my favourites. But we've also got players like Sebastian Larsson, trying to think, Lee Bowyer, Stephen Carr. Plenty of cult heroes down the years that you can't really forget about. Trying to think who is the ultimate one. For me, it's got to be Mikel Forssell. I think Emily knew that one was coming. That he you don't score 20 goals in the Premier League if you're a terrible striker, and he just was so good when we brought him in from Chelsea. He was such a good player, and I think we ended up getting some really bad injuries in the end. So he dipped off a little bit, but he was the best number 9 I've ever seen down the club. And the club still hold him in high regard. Everybody says he's the best finisher we've seen since we got into the Prem. So I'd go with Mikel Forssell.
I'm laughing because everyone already knows who my favourite player is. My favourite player is Lukas Jukovic. Has been pretty much from the start. Striker, brilliant player. Really super nice guy as well. I've met him a few times, and he's very supportive of everyone. He is Mr. Birmingham City, and the fact that he does a lot of charity work with the club, like kids come in that are unwell, and he spends time with them, and he's great. So he's my favourite player, really, not just on a footballing aspect, but as a human aspect. He is very much a great role model for the kids. You don't really get that really with many footballers these days. There aren't a huge amount of good role models out there. So I think that he's my favourite player, and I'd love to see him start scoring again, really, because last season he was fantastic. So.
Okay, so on Midlands Football Fans TV, we like to do a short quiz at the end of the show. We quiz the fans about questions regarding their team. The more questions they get right, the higher they rank on the leaderboard.
At the end of the football season, the fans team with the highest ranking will receive a special prize. Do you all understand how the game's played?
Certainly.
Are you ready to go?
Ready as I'll ever be.
Okay, the first question is, who scored the 56th minute goal in the 3-2 loss to Derby?
56th minute goal. No, it was Gary Gardner.
Oh, correct.
Which player wears the number 37 jersey?
I can't remember.
I'm trying to think. I know this one. Do you know this one?
Not off the top of my head.
I'm going to pass it over.
Oh, Ivan Sunjic. What? Why'd you have to do this to me?
Who scored the winner Friday night?
Odin Bailey.
Was it?
Is he the number 37? No, you put me on the spot here. I don't like this.
That's the idea.
Cut that out. Odin Bailey.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. How many club directors does the club currently have?
Ooh, I'm trying to think. Have they got 3 currently?
It's 5.
Is it 5?
Yeah. Almost.
Oh, that's a tricky one, that. They try and hide their faces as much as they can, to be honest, yeah.
Okay. So what year was the club founded?
1875. I don't want to get it wrong. 1875.
Okay. This is a monumental one. Who was the club's manager when they beat Arsenal in the 2011 League Cup final?
Do you want this one?
Alex McLeish.
It's Alex McLeish.
Yeah,
It certainly
perfect.
was.
That was a memorable year.
Certainly was. Could never forget that one.
So what is the longest duration Birmingham has spent away from top flight football? Is it 10 years, 20 years or 16 years?
Oh, top flight football, I'm trying to think. It would have been through the 90s. I'm going to say 20 years.
Actually 16
Is it 16
years.
years?
Unlucky.
87.
87 was the last time, yeah.
Okay. So what year did Gary Robert replace Lee Clark as the club's manager?
It was 2014.
Perfect, spot on.
I had to think about that one.
So who did the club beat in the 1963 Cup League?
Do you know this one? Do you remember who they beat in the League Cup for? Come on. It was Aston Villa.
Yes, it was.
Oh, that's it. Okay, we're all good. So that's it for today's show. Many thanks to the Birmingham fans for coming on. Thank you for your appearance. I really appreciate it. All the best for the season going forward with the club.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having us on, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.